Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. My name is Melissa, and today I thought we would make a fall themed card using Spellbinders Betterpress Society plate of the month. So this was the plate for September. And we were gone. We went on a motorhome trip, and so this was waiting for me when I got back, and I wanted to use it. My craft room is a mess. I took stuff with me. I don't know where anything is. Everything is in piles. It is very unorganized, but this was waiting for me, and I thought we would use this. So for the Betterpress Society, you can only get these plates through a brick and mortar store. I get mine through Firefly Farm in Minnesota, and you can find these anywhere. So this was the September 2024 plate. There are still some available. All you have to do is Google it and you can find it at a brick and mortar store. And this is called Raining Pumpkins. So I opted to also get the add-on stencils. So we will also be using those. And this is what I kind of came up with last night. This is very, very different than my normal. I am not used to such a dark background. We are going to use a different sentiment. This sentiment is a Spellbinders sentiment, but it's no longer available. So I decided to change it up. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my glimmer machine getting all nice and hot. My timer has gone off. I can pull my plate out of there. Mine is always really, really snug. And today we are using espresso bean. I didn't want to use black. I wanted more of a brown for fall. So we're using espresso bean. We can put our foil on there, shiny side down. We can add our paper, our plates. You always want to put the green shim face down and then run this through our machine. So let's see what we got. I'm expecting it to come out pretty darn perfect, and it did. That looks beautiful. I just love hot foiling all the images. I put my machine off to the side. I am going to stick my panel here on a sticky mat just to make it a little easier. So in the stencil set, like I said, it was an add-on, and there are 3 stencils, and these line up beautifully. I am just going to use a little bit of tape to hold it in place because we are going to use 3 different inks for this one stencil. We are all lined up. I've got Peach Fuzz, Clementine, and Persimmon from Pink Fresh Studio. These are my favorite oranges. We are going to start with our lightest, which is Peach Fuzz. And I just want to get a nice coating of ink on there because we're going to do highlights. And like I said, we went on a motorhome trip with 4 other couples. We just got back last week and I didn't have anything planned. I was exhausted for the first 2 days, putting everything away, doing laundry, getting caught up on household things. And then I kind of got involved in a couple other paperwork things during the week. And so I didn't have anything planned, but I wanted to share something today. So that's why we are using this. I will not be able to link this Spellbinders plate, but I will list everything else that I've used in the description below. And like I said, you can Google Spellbinders Betterpress Society Raining Pumpkins, and there are quite a few places you can pick this up if you want to that have extra sets. And I belong to the 6-month subscription, so I get a new plate every month. And they do that in 6-month increments to sign up. You have to commit to a 6-month subscription. And I just love it because they're exclusive for the Betterpress Society, and it's always something really, really fun. And this is a Betterpress plate, so you can letterpress or you can hot foil. So now we are going to switch to Clementine. And I've got another brush here. I've got my orange brush, and you want to make sure you tap off. I am just going to go on the edges, and I am going to try to hit it a little bit harder than I did in my sample because my colors faded and I really want this orange to be dark. So now I will switch over to Persimmon, and I am going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use one of my Waffle flower brushes here. I love these. And we are just going to add more color to the edge. I want it to appear that my light source is in the middle. And I am going to go kind of heavy-handed here because, like I said, on my sample, it did fade a little bit. You know, once the dye inks dry and they absorb into your paper, you do lose a little bit of that intensity. So I am going to go a little bit heavy-handed and still try to keep the accent in the middle, the light source, like it's shining from the front of the image. And I'm just going to do that on all of my pumpkins here. So we went on a motorhome trip. It was really fun. Our final destination, we traveled north, and then our final destination was Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. And then we made our way back. We went with 4 other couples, and it was so fun. We saw and did so much. It was just amazing. But I'm telling you, when we got home, I was exhausted. We are already trying to plan our next trip for next year. And I think we're going to go to Alaska. We're all going to get in our motorhomes and head north again. It was so much fun. We were so busy. We saw and did so much. We kind of got confused on what stop was where, and it was just amazing. So I'm just trying to go extra heavy-handed a little bit in here because I really want that orange pumpkin to pop. And then if you feel that your middle is just a little too light, it's really easy to add just a little bit more color in there. So I think that is probably pretty good. Let's peel this off and see what we have. Oh, that's so pretty. I love that dark orange. So I will set this stencil aside and we will bring in stencil number 2. They are very easy to line up. And I am just going to do the same thing, add a little bit of tape there. I'll put a little bit of tape at the bottom. And I am just going to repeat the process. I am going to start with Peach Fuzz and get a nice coating of that color on there first. And I think with layering the different colors on top of each other, you really get some good dimension, a nice deep color. So I also got in the mail when we returned was the Spellbinders Advent Calendar and the 12 Days of Stitchmas. Is anybody interested in watching a stitching card? I am an old cross-stitcher. I was cross-stitching back in my 20s. And I thought it would be fun to do some stitching cards. I know everybody is into that, and there are already a lot of videos out on that, so I didn't know if anybody would be interested in it, but I thought it would be fun. Leave me a comment in the description below or below the description if you would be interested in seeing a stitching video. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of this card. This is a little different for me. I am not used to the super dark background, so it's a little shocking, but you know what? This is growing on me. It really is. I do like that. It came out really pretty. So now we'll move on to Clementine. And just the same thing. We're just going to add color to the sides of our pumpkins. So we've got our Clementine all added. Let's bring in our persimmon. And we are going to switch to that smaller brush again, just so we can control that color a little bit more. And just do the sides of our pumpkins. I think that's good. Let's go ahead and take our stencil off and see what we have. Oh, I love that. That is really pretty. And I'm glad I went darker. I'm not sure what it's going to dry to, but I'm hoping that's quite a bit darker. So now we can bring in stencil number 3. Let me get my tape here. Stencil number 3 and do our stems. So for my stems, I am going to be using olive and evergreen. Let's start with our olive and just get a nice coating of ink on there. So I've got my olive on there, and I think what I want to do now is I'm going to bring in the evergreen, and I want to add just a little bit of shadow. I'm trying to decide. I think at this part of the stem, so this would be over here. I'm not sure how noticeable it will be once the ink dries, but I'm just trying to give a little bit more accent, a little bit more definition to those stems. So hopefully we can tell a little bit. Just on one side. And these two on the side, we probably don't even need to do because we are going to trim down this piece. It is rather large, much bigger than a A2 size card. All right, let's see what we got. I think that looks pretty good. And that is really pretty. I see one little thing here I can try to fix. Right there. Looks like we had a little bit of white spot, and I don't want to see that. One more right there, and we're good. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. And you do need to be careful because sometimes your stencils can scratch that foil just a little bit when you are using such a big piece like that, when you have so much foil. So let's go ahead, and I am going to trim this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. My panel is all trimmed. I've got a card base here, and I wasn't sure what color I wanted to layer underneath. That green matches perfectly. Or if I wanted to go with the espresso, like a dark brown. I don't know. Or I have another green here. That one doesn't really go. Let's get rid of that one. So it's between the brighter green. I think we're going to go with the espresso. So let's go ahead and layer this on our layering piece just with some glue. And because we used liquid glue, we can wiggle that around a little bit so it is perfectly centered. Just like that. I'm really liking that dark orange. That is so pretty. Let's attach this to our card base. And I've just got a top folding card base here. And I can see a couple spots where my foil may have scratched off. So we are going to take those spots and cover them with our gems. But first, let's do our sentiment. For my sentiment, I used the Full of Thanks, which is from an older Spellbinders hot foil set, but that's retired, and I thought that image was just a little bit big. So I brought in my trusty Always and Forever sentiment strips, and I love this because you have so many options in there. And what I did was I reverse hot foiled this sentiment. I hot foiled the entire plate, and I got all these sentiments with the espresso foil for the writing. And then I took and I reverse hot foiled the leftover piece, and then I got all these sentiments that will match my other foil. So that worked out perfect. Let's get a little piece of foam strip behind here, and I did take a Sharpie and I just outlined my sentiment here, because sometimes when you cut on white paper like that, it did show the white on the bottom, and I didn't want that. I just wanted it to be a nice image there that matched perfectly. So let's go ahead and add this. I think we will add this probably in the same place, and we're going to add this right about there. Make sure it's straight. That looks good. Then we can bring in our gems. And I've got some green and orange, but I think we will just use the, well, let's see. Let's get our orange placed first. And this is actually butterscotch. This is butterscotch glitter drops. And there we go. That card is all done. I did not add any of the green glitter drops. I was going to put a couple on each of the little pumpkins as accents, but the green just didn't look right to me. It was the wrong shade. So that's our card for today. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.